from Hawaii, by the way. Someone just said that. That's Joanne. Aloha. So if you just want to go to that chat and just ask any questions there throughout our time together. Also, just say your name and where you're from. So.
Oh, somebody's from Beaverton.
Beaverton. I know that's near you.
My neighbor. Vancouver Island. Woo!
That's
I'm just
great.
seeing them come in.
You also have the option of viewing us in speaker view. It's up in the top right. Or you can look, and that means typically the speaker will take the forefront, or you can go to gallery where you see everyone. And I'm going to do speaker because we have so many people right now, Carolyn. You have disappeared on me.
Oh.
And I need to see your face.
I can see you. I can see. I don't know if I see everybody.
If you go to gallery, there are some good-looking faces out there.
Lots of people. Thank you, guys.
And Amy Davis just gave us a little chuckle, so she popped up on speaker.
I see Amy Davis's name, but I don't see her.
Yeah, she is our, just so y'all know, Amy Davis is the dietitian on staff at Swerve. So she has joined us for this call. Hello, Kimberly from Louisville.
Oh, wow.
Listen, we're already starting with some questions.
Yeah, I saw one. I saw something about
cake
while
we wait a little bit, let's just talk about it. How do we get a cake to be less dense and more fluffy?
Oh, well, I think you have that on the list of things for us to talk about.
I think we do.
I think we do.
Got other topics. Okay.
We'll get to that one.
Wait. That one's coming.
Wow. Oh, there's like a whole family over here from Jennifer Jacoby.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, family.
A whole family. Hi, family. I made my kids go away.
Oh, Carolyn, that's fun.
Uh-oh. I'm not
All right. So y'all, for those who have just joined, thank y'all for joining our Zoom tonight. For those in the Central Coast at 6 p.m. For those in the Pacific Coast, we are talking a little bit of late afternoon, and then of course Eastern. Thank you for joining us at dinner time. Oh look, Jennifer actually uses and eats most of your recipes, Carolyn.
I just got unmuted.
Oh, hey, Andress.
Well, great.
Hey,
Andress.
you guys. Hey, from New Orleans, downtown. So happy for Ben and Carolyn to be joining us. So thank you. Happy to be here. I'm muting myself because I'm a participant.
That's great. Well, thank you. So y'all, we were just saying, if you want to view us as far as how Zoom works, up in the right corner, you can use speaker view if you want to see who specifically is talking and have them come to the forefront, or you can go to gallery view where you can see all the beautiful faces out there that have joined us today. Down at the bottom, we've got a chat. That is where we would love for you to ask any questions, or if you also just want to put, just say your name just for some practice and where you're from. It's exciting to see that everyone has come from all over. I think we just had a little Iowa show up for us. Now listen, we may need somebody on the Swerve team to also jump in with some of these questions as we move through the day, because we got things coming, and I'm not sure Carolyn and I can manage every question coming at us right now. So
We'll
just
try.
be aware of that.
We'll try.
We'll do our best. Okay, so I would love to just kick us off. Thank you again for joining us. Somebody's jamming out.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was you.
Somebody wants a little ambiance. Okay, good.
That's my son.
That's all right. We like your son. They sound like good music.
Yeah, he's a good musician.
That was cute.
That's great. It sounded fantastic. So again, thank y'all for just joining us. Carolyn Ketchum of All Day I Dream About Food has just joined our Swerve Zoom. She is not only a personal friend, but she's also just a brand friend of our company. We appreciate her support. Back in the day, even before I even came on with Swerve about 5 years ago, she and Andress connected. Carolyn, when she was making her way in the world and we were making our way in the world, they developed that friendship. And we, again, as Andress was saying, as a company, Andress is our CEO and president, who helped develop Swerve.
Go ahead. No, I'm on mute. 30 to 35.
Hi, Pat. But oh, you're all right, Pat.
Now she's muted again. She's got it.
Yeah, but we just love that we can do this and have fun together and kind of have these discussions specifically today around keto baking. So just so y'all know, Mike Hartnett, who you may see on your screen, he is going to post a link. We actually have a giveaway, which is exciting for everyone. So if you want to enter, with your email, that would be fantastic. We're going to give away some Swerve, some swag. Carolyn, I believe, assigned cookbook for her, The Ultimate Guide to Keto Baking.
Okay, this doesn't show up.
Mike has just put the link in there, so just know that that's going to happen. There, oh yeah, there's that cookbook, Judy.
There we go. Thank
you.
you.
It is an amazing cookbook, y'all. We're gonna talk a little bit about it. A signed cookbook, Kenya. That is right. So you have the opportunity to see if you can win it. We also, no matter what, though, from this cookbook, there is a chocolate mayonnaise cake that people are kind of on fire about. I've been in some keto groups. I've also been doing keto for about 2 years. Carolyn has been an inspiration for my entrees and my desserts. But yeah, so I've seen people, they are loving the chocolate mayonnaise cake. So we will be sending out just that recipe to everyone who signs up, no matter what. And just so y'all know, Carolyn, I was going to surprise you. I actually made the cake.
Oh, I wish I could actually taste it.
Oh, it's really moist. It's really nice. And I'm probably going to have some by the end of this little Zoom. So I had to try it for myself. It's a different kind of cake, but we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
All right. Carolyn, are you ready?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, let's do it. So as we've discussed, and I've got kind of like an interesting kind of 3D, but I've got it here also in my house, The Ultimate Guide to Keto Baking. So Carolyn, what I would like to do, because this is an amazing book, it's an amazing accomplishment. I would say it's very thorough. Would you call it that also?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, when I started writing my blog, when I wrote recipes, I modeled them after America's Test Kitchen because they're so thorough. Like they try to anticipate questions you don't even know you want to ask. And so that's how I approached this one in terms of, you know, all the different flours. I mean, I got out of my own comfort zone. You know, usually I'm using almond flour and coconut flour, and I tried out lupin flour, and I tried out, you know, I do a lot of stuff with sunflower seed flour too, to make it nut free, but still the same consistency as you might get with almond flour. So I just tried to like address everything I could think of. 10 years of experience, you know, just putting it out there. And so, you know, all the questions you could have about sweeteners, about the differences that, you know, using a metal versus a ceramic pan makes, that kind of thing. And I even like, you know, I would make my own brownies in a ceramic pan and be like, gee, that takes 15 minutes longer to bake, you know, and then I'd research why, and then I'd be like, okay, there's my answer, and I'd write about it. So tried to do that. And I tried it to not just be recipes, because I really want it to be the sort of thing where people take a recipe and think, well, you know, I like the idea here, but I want to change this, this, and this. And then I've hopefully given them the tools to do that. Yeah.
Well, I think what's beautiful is like even in the forward, your love language, I would say, is around food. Yes. And you 100% express that through your cookbook, also just in your relationships. And I think that detail, and I would even say that love, not to be too cheesy a little bit, is throughout this cookbook.
I really liked writing it, but it was definitely the hardest book I've ever had to write because I wanted it to be so thorough. It, you know, I just didn't want to leave out anything, and it exhausted me, and I may never write a cookbook again.
No, Carolyn, there's going to be a revolt right now on this Zoom. They're going to just drop off. Don't do it.
No.
Okay, well, look, let's talk about just your approach to baking. So you've talked about well, I'm just going to let you talk.
Okay, my approach to baking?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about like creating a recipe or where to start from or what inspires you, like I'd love to just hear that a little bit.
Okay, well, it used to be, well, when I first started, food blogging wasn't a very big thing. It was pretty young still. So, and Pinterest didn't exist. And I find huge amounts of inspiration on Pinterest. Like I'll see something that's totally high carb and I'll think about how I can make it low carb. But it took a while to get used to working with the ingredients. I mean, I had some clunkers at the beginning, and these flours are so different. Like people always ask me, how can I sub almond flour a cup for cup? And I was like, no, don't do it. And then it's even worse with coconut flour, you know? So once I got used to them, then I basically start thinking like, okay, you know, that worked that way in one recipe. What if I try this in this new recipe? And I just sort of think about the texture I'm going for and the taste I'm going for. Taste is easier to, you know, emulate, that's not the right word, but simulate
No, I
from
get you.
high carb
Yeah.
to a low carb. But texture is a huge thing that you always have to like constantly think about. You know, so people also ask me, you know, like which flour is best to use for keto baking, and I'm like, it
Yes.
depends on what you're going for, you know, or yeah, can I sub this for that? And I'm like, oh gosh, it really depends on the recipe. I mean, they want solid like formulas, and I don't give them because I don't believe they really exist. It all depends on, if you want a cakey cookie, it's going to be very different from what you use is going to be very different from like a crisp cookie. So
Yes. And so you basically, in my opinion, have like helped people kind of work through and maneuver through your likes and your tasting through this cookbook.
I hope so.
I feel like you have.
That was the goal. That was the goal.
So when we're talking through just the recipes in here, we've talked about the chocolate mayo cake.
Yeah.
Because people have gone absolutely bananas about it.
Yeah, they have.
Why do you feel like they've gone bananas about this specific cake?
I don't know. I think it's pretty dense, and I mean, it's not dense. It's got sort of the right sponge.
Yeah.
It's dairy free, which is nice because a lot of people in the keto world are either intolerant to dairy or they want to experiment going dairy free.
Yes.
Or they just, you know, sometimes because we depend so much on like butter, cream, and cheese.
Yeah.
That it, you know, sometimes you're like, whoa, I need a break. So you can do it completely dairy free with a dairy free frosting too, or you can do it. But I think the mayo makes it extremely moist, and
Yes.
that makes it sort of, it's almost akin to a devil's food cake, I'd say, in terms of the flavor.
I would totally agree. I've never actually used mayo in a cake until today.
Oh, really? This was your first time baking
Yeah,
it?
I feel like in my Southern heritage, because y'all, I'm from Alabama. Our company is out of New Orleans. But I'm not sure I've ever used mayo in a cake, but I've heard about mayo being used in cakes.
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, the South has the best baking recipes. Like, they're the people that I'm always, because it's always slightly over the top.
Right.
And I like over the top. So I really like, you know, emulating, like coming, you know, gooey butter cake or something like that. That's just sort of slightly over the top. Those things.
Yes.
Those things I really like. I always get a lot of inspiration, and I'm like, it's Southern again, and I'm Canadian, so.
You are, and you live in the Pacific Northwest.
And I live in the Pacific Northwest.
It's a nice mashup.
But if I'm gonna, you know, if I'm gonna do something over the top, I'm usually ending up with some sort of Southern recipe, I find. So.
No, you know, somewhat I appreciate that. Thank you. You know, the chocolate mayonnaise cake has almond flour. That was a question we just had.
Yeah.
The base is almond flour. There's not coconut or even protein powder in it, which I thought was interesting. Yeah.
When I first started baking low carb, I used coconut flour and almond flour separately. Like and then I discovered that I really liked a combo. But in that one, is that one only? See, this is the thing. I write so many recipes, I honestly cannot tell you off the top of my head which one's which a lot of the time. So I have to go look at it. Right beside
Are you
me.
looking at the chocolate mayo cake?
Yes, I am.
It is on page 96.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the reason this one doesn't have coconut flour is because it has so much cocoa powder in it. And cocoa powder is also very fine. It doesn't quite work the way coconut flour does, but it's very fine. So it also adds bulk and texture. And so I just did almond flour with that. Now with that one, you could easily do sunflower seed flour and make it completely nut free if you wanted to.
And would you use the same cup for cup with sunflower and almond? Because I've never used sunflower.
They work really. Sometimes you need like a tiny bit more of the sunflower seed flour, and it is a little higher carb. But yes, it is. It's cup for cup basically, and the one caveat there is if you completely need to be nut free, you need to make sure your sunflower seed flour was not done in a facility that also does nuts, because a lot of them do.
Yes.
So.
That makes total sense.
There's one really great brand on Amazon that is completely allergen free. So.
Okay. Rock on.
And if people want to know, I'll tell them, but I don't want to
clog it up. We'll watch the chat to see if they ask what is that brand. And just so y'all know, because there was a question about the
Say it. You can say it. We're all friends in the keto world.
Oh no, it's not. I just didn't want to clutter things up for people. It's a weird name. It's Gerbs, Gerbs, and it's all capitalized. And they're the one that, like, they're super into being totally allergen free. So they do all their, like, you can make your own sunflower seed flour. So you could just get the raw sunflower seeds and do it, which I do in a coffee grinder. Or you could just buy their ground stuff. So.
All right. That's great. No, thank you. That's something I'm going to try out myself. There are a few ingredients I haven't tried out, like the psyllium.
Yeah, psyllium.
Psyllium. I haven't tried out any of that stuff. So there's a few things that you mentioned that I have not even purchased in my life.
Yeah, and that one was a hot one for a while to make keto bread, but it always turns out it has some issues because it can turn out super gummy. It's a weird substance.
Okay.
You have to go with a light hand on that one, I would say. And a lot of recipes used to just use a ton of it, and then you get this like spongy gummy thing that sometimes turn purple. So
okay,
purple bread.
That sounds interesting.
Weird. It's a weird one.
It is a little strange. Just close your eyes and eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you have to do. So also I've seen like people really enjoy the Cowboy Cookie.
That's a popular one.
What is going on with that? Because I've never had a Cowboy Cookie either.
So they're basically very large chocolate chip cookies with pecans in them. And I guess they were made famous by Laura Bush.
Okay.
Again, I'm going for like Texas and the South. I know Texas isn't the South, but so that one's interesting because that one turns out slightly differently depending on what sweetener you use. And I like it best with Swerve because I like a crisper cookie. But a lot of people, who have tried other things, like I had my recipe testers. I have a group of lovely, devoted people who followed me for a really long time. And I created a Facebook group of recipe testers. And I just pop up a recipe and say, I want you to test it out with this. And they turned out, if you used a different sweetener like Boca Sweet or allulose, it would turn out very cakey. So it really, again, is like, if you want it to be crisp, you got to use erythritol. You got to use Swerve. If you want it to be, and some people really like soft baked cookies. And so I'm always saying, well, then you've got to choose a different sweetener. So
I hear that. Now, do you put gelatin in the Cowboy Cookie?
That one, if you want it to be chewy, I think so. See, I don't even know my own.
No, that's right. That's page 130 in your cookbook.
130, thank you. Did I put gelatin in that one? I probably did. I started to do that because it does give you can still get a crisp cookie, but it's also got that chewiness in it.
Yes.
But it's always, unless it's like something that's like a Jell-O based kind of, then the gelatin is always, I don't see it. Oh yeah, it is 2 tablespoons grass-fed gelatin. Yep.
Awesome. Because I've just discovered the beauty of gelatin in cookies, and I feel like you also enjoy putting it for maybe that crispy or just as
the chewy. If you want the chewy.
It's the chewy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first time I tried that was they're not in any of my books, but the ginger spice cookies. And I was just kind of like, wow, this really works. I cannot honestly tell you who came up with that little trick. I would love to give them credit. It could have been Keto Connect, but I'm not positive. Somebody did.
Yes, I think it's pretty fun. It took a while to make a chocolate chip cookie that I enjoyed, but the gelatin seemed to do it for me.
Yeah.
Which I was very happy with. Well, y'all, let's just move on a little bit for the sake of time. So we also wanted to ask you some common questions around like substitutions, and we kind of led into that a little bit with the gelatin. But I know that some recipes call for protein powder. Some people may not have that at home. They may have something to substitute for it. Can you just help us a little bit there?
Okay, yes. Well, protein powder is one that I really encourage readers to get if they want to be baking nice cakes. And it doesn't have to be whey protein. You can always use egg white protein. But the best way to say it is gluten is a protein. And it's a dry protein. It comes in a dry form. So you can't substitute egg white, liquid egg white, because it's going to throw off your ratio of dry to wet. But gluten is kind of what gives baked goods structure. So it helps them rise. It helps them hold the shape once they've baked. And if you skip it, it'll still be good, but it won't have that light fluffiness for a cake or you don't need it in something like a cookie because you're not going for a cakey consistency. Right. But in muffins and cakes, I think do yourself a favor. It will seem very expensive, but I bake a lot. And a canister of whey protein powder can last me 6 to 8 months.
Awesome.
And I bake like 3 times more than normal people.
No, you're kidding me.
every day, sometimes twice a day. So if it lasts me that long, it's going to last you really long. And you can, if it's in danger of going bad, stick it in the freezer. So the protein powder, people always want a replacement for it. And I say, you can skip it, but just don't expect the same consistency. Like your cakes will, the person who asked how to make cakes less dense, that's how. Protein powder.
Okay, perfect. That's great. I'm just kind of reading the chat right now, just so you know, Carolyn. See, there's a lot going on around some Smart Cakes hamburger buns. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand. There may be out of Florida.
I know the Smart Cakes brand.
Yeah.
I honestly don't miss bread that much.
Okay, sure.
Bread, so I've, maybe it's just because I'm doing this for so long, so I don't always rush around trying to fill the bread void. Although I do like a good focaccia. But no, I haven't tried
focaccia recipe.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like that one.
Molly Kimball out of New Orleans that you did a podcast with.
Yes, I did.
She makes her focaccia. I feel like it's twice a week, or she makes it, freezes it, and then eats it every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's in love with your focaccia.
I mean, she said it was good, but I didn't know she had gone that
she is in love
into it.
Just so you know, you have a super fan on the focaccia recipe.
Oh, awesome. So I haven't tried the Smart. I mean, also the Smart, my kids, my thing is I like my own stuff so much. It's very hard. I get sent so many things to try, and I end up like giving them away or giving them to my kids, mostly because I like what I make better.
Yeah. No, that's
Maybe I'm just a snob.
Listen, no, you're also a traditionalist. You found pride in making it from scratch.
Right.
And it makes, I totally get it. It makes sense.
I also think part of it is that I trust my own baking. Like I don't know what Smart Cakes has in them, but a lot of brands do add some things that I'm like I know if I eat something with Swerve that I've made, it won't raise my blood sugar. Whereas I cannot say the same for prepackaged ingredients, because all diabetics respond differently to all sorts of different ingredients. So for me, if I make it and I make it with Swerve, I can test my blood sugar an hour later and it's barely moved, which is, I trust it. That's my thing.
Yes. Well, I think that actually segues into a question. And it's very broad, which is totally cool. But it's just about, can we talk about carbs based on the recipes in your cookbook? I think just for the sake of time, we could keep this kind of high level. And I'll just let you speak. It's a keto cookbook. Your recipes, like you said, the ingredients, the carb count and the net carb count. Right. And then if there's anything else you want to add to that.
I add to that I never count erythritol or Swerve as a carb because it doesn't raise blood sugar. And so I think it's very misleading for people to see it as in the total carbs. And the way I've described it to people is carbs when the USDA or whoever is calculating carbs are calculated by basically subtracting all the other macro ingredients or not macronutrition. And so you get this it's called carbs by difference. And so there just isn't, to me, it's weird that erythritol is counted as a carb. They just don't have any other place to put it in. It's not protein. It's not fiber. It's not fat. So they put it in the carb thing, but it doesn't act like a carb. So and that's why I say at the beginning of all my cookbooks, it's a total carb count, but the erythritol isn't there, and don't expect it to be.
Right. So. Exactly. And even on our website at swervesweet.com, we have an FAQ around how to count net carbs and subtract fiber and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I generally count total carbs, except I just don't count erythritol because it just has zero impact on my blood sugar. So
okay, groovy. I love it. Somebody also wanted to know that your website is All Day I Dream About Food.
Yes.
So we may have someone new to Carolyn Ketchum on our call today, which is great. If not, that is her website. Amazing recipes.
And she really does dream about food all day. It's really weird.
She does dream about food all day. And I enjoy making the food she dreams about. So that's pretty great. Let's just move on to we've talked a little bit about just some transparency and some vulnerability. And we talked about nailed it moments, which Carolyn, what does that mean? And basically, y'all, so there's a TV show, I think it's on Food Network, where they bring in people who maybe aren't the best bakers, which is fair. And then they give them kind of this extravagant recipe, and then they have them compete to try to make it to perfection, which is truthfully just not going to happen. And they call it Nailed It. So I told Carolyn I would love if she could share just one or two of her Nailed It moments, even if it's back in the day, of just so we understand that Carolyn, y'all, is a rock star. but it has taken some trial and error to get to this woman that we love, and we love her recipes.
Oh yeah. Well, when I first started out, like I said, I had some clunkers, and I've told Ben this story. The first time I tried to make coconut flour brownies, I was working from someone else's recipe, but I didn't believe that it would take that many eggs. There was like, there's no way I can take that many eggs. And I basically ended up with a brick that I needed to throw away. It was so dry. And it's really frustrating to waste ingredients.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. Because that's probably one of your things. It's kind of odd for you to say you didn't salvage it.
Oh, I
Must
can
have been
salvage
really
all.
bad.
That's a really good point that I'll talk about in a second, and you'll see it in all my books. It's like, don't throw anything away because it's too expensive. Because you really don't need to most of the time. There's usually something you can do, but this was so bad. Like you choked when you ate it. Like that's how bad it was.
Sounds like a health hazard.
Yeah. And then for, I think it was for the Easy Keto Desserts book, I was trying to make an egg-free mug cake, and I thought I would try this gelatin eggs, and it bubbled up in the microwave, and then it like densified. I don't know how else to describe it. And it was this weird, chewy, rubbery. It was so strange.
Sounds amazing.
Okay. It was going to be like a lemon poppy seed mug cake, and I was like, oh, that's not good. And for some reason, oh no, I did end up with a lemon poppy seed, but I ended up putting eggs in it. I was like, I don't really know how to bake without eggs unless it's something that's not supposed to really have eggs in the first place, like shortbread.
Right.
I've attempted it a few times, and it's not easy. I made one for you guys with your cake because at the beginning of the pandemic, people couldn't find eggs. Like all the hoarders were sitting on, like they were pretending they were hens or something. Oh gosh, I hope that isn't too loud. My air conditioning just came on.
No, we can't hear it, so you're good.
So I made a cake for you guys without eggs. I was using your bake mix, and I was trying to do it without eggs, and it rose, and then I was trying to do like wacky cake, that old Depression era wacky cake that doesn't take any eggs. And it rose, but then it sank in the middle. But it was so good that I was like, okay, I'm just going to fill the middle with cream, like some sort of whipped cream deliciousness, and call it a tort. And that's what I did.
And is that recipe somewhere we can find it, this tort?
It's on the Swerve website. So
oh, that's on ours. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to look for that and make that. A question we have right now are speaking of eggs, why are there so many eggs in keto recipes versus regular?
Because it's a structure thing. So again, it's the lack of protein. I mean, the lack of gluten.
Yes.
So without gluten, you are trying to recreate the structure that gluten would normally give you. And egg whites and eggs do help do that a lot.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That's helpful.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps, Dee. Well, let's also just the last little bit. It's kind of our question and answer. I know a lot of questions have come through here, y'all. I've tried to catch as many as I can. Carolyn, this actually went really fast. This went really fast.
Wow.
I feel like we can give about 10 more minutes. Does everybody have about 10 more minutes?
God, I wish we had longer. Oh my
I know. Okay, we're seeing some thumbs up. You know, I understand y'all have to drop off. Make sure you sign up for the giveaway, and also to make sure you get this chocolate mayonnaise cake deliciousness in a recipe format. That will also come your way when you sign up. But let's just keep going a little bit. This will be our Q&A. Okay. If some questions came up at the beginning of this Zoom and we were not able to address it, please ask away. And Mike, if you could, there's the link. So Cynthia, the link was just posted by Mike for the giveaway. And there it is for y'all who may have just joined a little later or throughout the Zoom. Great. Oh, Missy, you're too sweet. Missy says, as long as we want, Carolyn, they're going to stay on. They also want you to have your own TV show.
I might be too much of a recluse for that. I got to say, this like staying home thing, I kind of liked it.
Okay.
Except I'm a little sick of my children, but that's okay.
Listen.
We're all a little sick of each other.
I can only imagine.
My poor 15-year-old son, he cannot stand his parents right now.
Oh, goodness. You make him a special place that he can just hang out in and have some distance.
Yeah.
So there was a question around lupin flour.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight around lupin flour? I'm not familiar with that one.
Lupin's kind of interesting. So it's I guess it's a legume, and they grind it up. So I guess it could be similar to something like chickpea flour, but it's mostly fiber. So if you count net carbs, I guess that can work for you. I tend to count total. I didn't see huge, like, fiber does slow the process of hitting things to your blood sugar. So I tried a few recipes with it. It's got a kind of a, when I say funky, I don't mean this badly, but like a funky, distinct flavor that in sweet things, I'd be like, yeah, I don't really want that flavor there.
Yes.
Because it does come through. I suppose you could probably cover it with chocolate, like cocoa powder kind of recipes. It worked really well for a few things, and it worked really well for some popovers I made in the book. Yeah. And I really like those. But I do think that, because we don't always know how much fiber is affecting our blood sugar. So going to town on a flour that is technically kind of high carb, but also super high fiber could be, you may not want to eat, 5 muffins that way. I am planning on playing with it a little more, but I kind of, because of the pandemic, went to everybody's comfort zone and the ones we already know, because a lot of people were saying, I don't want to have to buy a new product. So I've been trying to stay away from that for a little bit.
Yes,
so.
That makes total sense. It's actually very considerate of you right now.
Well, I just didn't want it, like, I hate when I'm like, hey, now go spend money, when we're all going, oh God, this is a scary time. So
I totally get that. So a question I just saw also is just about the cooling effect with Swerve. And y'all, we've learned that if you can add a little bit of fat, at least in my experience, so if it calls for, say, 6 tablespoons of butter, maybe add an extra tablespoon of butter. The fat at times can negate cooling if you have that sensitivity. When using Swerve, there are people out there who actually do not experience it.
I'm one. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
It was weird. So plain erythritol, when I first started using it, when I first started baking low carb, I was like, well, if I make it a chocolate mint recipe, then it all works. Yes. And then I tried Swerve and instantly was like, I don't have the cooling sensation. I was surprised to find out people still do, but
yes.
All of us experience all of these sweeteners differently. Like a lot of people really like allulose now. Well, it makes me very sick. So
yes. Yeah, no, I tell you, everybody's digestive system's different. Palates can be different.
Palates are different.
Total sense. So I'm going to speak real quickly to the ratio of Swerve to sugar is a cup for cup. So same measurement, which is really nice. I say if you're using our powdered sugar, we were actually just talking about this before y'all all joined us. When you're using our powdered sugar replacement in a frosting or recipe, I would say sweeten to taste. As you typically cut some sugar out and do keto and low carb, your taste buds can change. And like now when I have something that is super sweet and has sugar in it, truthfully, my teeth hurt a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm just not used to having that much sugar in my diet. So just be a way, and Angie, just even speaking of this, she just talks about the cooling a little bit. Just sweeten the taste for that cooling. Normally, like we were talking, Carolyn and I, 2 sticks of butter, 3/4 a cup of Swerve confectioners. That makes a beautiful buttercream frosting for me. So Carolyn's going to try it when she at some point in the next few days, maybe she's going to try it out, but just be aware of that. But let's also, people want to know what your favorite recipe is. That's come up a few times. Is that, or can we say that?
It's so hard for me because, it's some of my favorites are not always the ones that are the most popular. I'm trying to think of more recent ones. Plus, I never make my own recipes the same way twice. Like I'm always in my head, like, well, that's great. I'd love to try that again, except I want to do something different with it. So and there's some that I truly, truly love for what they are.
Yes.
But
let's narrow this down. Are you a flavor person? Do you gravitate towards chocolate, lemon? What is
chocolate?
Chocolate, okay.
Chocolate. Although I will tell you that every time, because I made cupcakes out of it recently, every time I make the Italian cream cake on my site, I'm like, that is so good. That is so good. And I will say one of my favorite things that I've ever made for you guys is the butter pecan ice cream pie.
Yes.
That is really good too.
Yes.
And so it's funny because I would normally say I'm totally a chocolate person, but there are certain tastes that I'm like, oh God, that's good. Like, why am I always so focused on chocolate? Because that's so good.
And you just made, I think, was it a brown butter, a bourbon ice cream? I'm not sure.
Oh, yes. Yep, brown butter bourbon.
Well, I can't wait to make that for like July 4th.
Brown sugar.
Brown sugar. So brown
Swerve and bourbon.
Okay.
I figured that was very Southern.
Oh, listen, you're trending. You also made a dump cake, which is like kind of the worst title ever for a cake. But my mom sent me a recipe from a crock pot dump cake. And she was like, can you swerve this?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I also love, I will say another thing that I love is rhubarb. Like I love rhubarb. And it's always surprised to me when people have never tried it. Maybe it's much more of a northern thing, but grew up on rhubarb crisp. And so that was something that was highly important to me to swervify or keto-fy.
Yes. Well, wonderful. Well, y'all, listen, I'm just saying lots of people love your caramel sauce. They really appreciate your cookbook and just what you offer to the keto, even diabetic and low carb communities. Someone just made your apple fritter bread.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, they really. And
somebody's
Jennifer
saying, can we do this again?
Do this again.
I'd be more than happy to. I love this. This is great. I like actually interacting with people. So, and I wish I had time to answer. I wish we had longer so I can answer all the questions.
Yes, and we may be, if we can actually, and I may be overpromising, so y'all just forgive me on this. If we may be able to scroll through these questions and somehow communicate some answers to them.
Yeah, maybe.
For the ones we missed, maybe. Again, maybe. We will see what we can do.
Somebody said the New York-Style Cheesecake. I just saw that pop up. That's a good one.
That's
and I like that a lot of people want a crust, but I like that it has no crust because then it's fewer carbs and you're like, great, I can have a bigger piece.
Yeah, and it's a cheesecake. So,
you
can't go wrong. I enjoy good cheesecake. So y'all, again, y'all have seen the link. Michael posted again. Sign up for, it looks like Carolyn's got a little
There's little fluff like going by. I'm sitting outside because it's so nice out and a little piece of fluff just went by my eyeball.
Okay, that's fantastic. I've got my beagle beside me who's been whining a little bit. I didn't know if y'all could hear him, so he wants to go out. That's all right. So we've got that giveaway. We've got Swerve swag and Carolyn's cookbook. Again, you'll get a copy of this delicious, let me see if we can see it again, but this delicious chocolate mayonnaise cake. Thank y'all for joining us on this Thursday evening and afternoon, and hopefully we can do this again. So we really appreciate it. And thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was so fun. I love talking about baking.
Yeah.
I see waves.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye. I'm waving to everybody.
Oh, look, Carolyn, everyone's so excited.
I know. They're still waving.
Yes.
That's so nice. Yeah. You guys, it is really, you're all still here, so I'm just going to say it really is. Like, I love connecting with my readers and I love doing this. Like, we could talk about it all day.
Yes, and people appreciate that you answer your questions on your website and also Facebook. And
I try.
You take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, it's mostly me. I have somebody who helps me a little with Facebook, but honestly, I drown in questions sometimes. But I've decided that I prefer to be a one-man show, which doesn't do anything good for my stress level. But
yes,
so I just, nobody can answer the questions the way I can. That's part of my problem. So
now I want to say, Jeannie just took a bite of something.
I know. I see
what
her.
Is that, Jeannie? We may have to put that in the chat.
I know.
Well, y'all, we love hanging out with y'all. I'm just not quite sure. Emily is with our company, and I'm not. We can continue to hang, but we really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Do you have to just like? I don't
know.
Emily, we don't.
I'm gonna close the meeting.
Okay.
Thank
y'all,
you.
We will really look at trying to do this.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I would love to do it again. I would love to do it again.
Bye, y'all. Have a wonderful evening and a good weekend. Be safe.